Hey everyone, in this video we are looking at a set that's officially from 2012. It's the copyright year on the box, from the Dino theme from LEGO. It was simply called Dino. It was the most recent non-licensed dinosaur-related theme that LEGO did, and this was the big set, the one you really wanted to get from that theme, the Dino Defense Headquarters, which included an exclusive version of the highly sought-after T-Rex. The structure that you build here is primarily an enclosure, so this is intended to hold on to the animals once they've been captured, to keep them for just safekeeping, to keep them away from human habitats and such, or for preparation to transport them to another safer space. Front and center is the main access gate, which is supposed to be an electrified unit, and it has a chain going across it right now. You can just remove one single side of that, and this opens up nice and wide. These are built up with some little spikes at the top, and you can bend some of those down to suggest some damage from a dinosaur inside trying to get out or something. And each of these segments of this entire build is removable, so you've actually got a joint right here where you can separate these sections out, and if you want, it's not the strongest thing, but if you want, you can actually separate all of these parts from each other and make the whole thing just flat, make it all just one single line of fences and small structures and such. At one corner is a small hexagonal little tower structure with just a couple of large stickers on the front to suggest that a generator room is within this. There's no actual generator detail inside, but they've got a little suggestion that some of the main wires, which are exposed on the outside, have been torn apart, so some damage has been done by dinosaurs outside, which is going to de-electrify the fencing around this entire place, and that sets up kind of an emergency that you need to deal with. One of the things you can use to help deal with that emergency is this rotating turret, which has a couple of flick fire missiles on it that you can shoot off, and those are tranquilizer dart tipped, and you can probably take down a fairly large animal with those, with their large size. And this is intended to be a searchlight, or possibly a floodlight there, so that even if it's nighttime, you'll still be able to get a look at some of the animals. Hopefully there's some sort of battery backup, so that light will not go out when the generator is taken out as well. Also get just a couple of leaves on the side here, supposed to represent some foliage that's growing up the sides of the structure. On the opposite side, the base here, the base section of it, is built the same. They just have one different sticker on one side, but then on top, rather than having a turret, they have something else that can be rotated around. It's a crane that has a hook just at the end of it, and they include a single net that you can use to pick up some of the animals that are outside. And you can turn this all the way around and drop one off inside. This is able to angle up, and yeah, that'll work for smaller animals, and just literally drop them off down in there. And he or she is supposed to be tranquilized, so just gotta leave it alone for now. The net honestly does not work that well because it doesn't really hook on to the hook. It just tends to slip off, especially when you have an actual payload within it. But to help with that, I suggest just taking a single 1x2 plate or tile and putting it onto that stud there, and just kind of having it extend out to kind of close this up, so it's able to have a full loop rather than just being open like it is. But at least the crane itself has articulation, so you can move the arm up and down, and they have this additional smaller little arm out towards the end to help you with some different angles. One other thing that is missing here is just some basic sort of suggestion of controls for the crane, because you can put a figure there and imagine that person is controlling the crane, but it'd just be nice to have like a single control lever somewhere around the side or something. This side of the fencing is built exactly the same as the other side, but then once you get to the back of the structure, things change very much from one side to the other. So there in the very back, you have another gate, and this one is opened like a portcullis. It has a little winch on the top, so that's able to raise and lower the gate below. And the largest usable part of this portion of the build is sort of an office space up there. It's an observation / communications tower, so there's a transceiver dish over here, and I've got a couple of antennas up on top. To get access in here, there are two things you can do. You can just remove the roof, which has a couple of stickers on the top of it. Not very visible from the front at all, but also to get a little easier view from the side here, you can just pull off the entire window sub-assembly, and there you can see a single person is able to sit in there on a swiveling chair. They can rotate back and forth between two printed consoles. So there's one console right there, and the other one is not a repeat. It's a slightly different print. It would have been nicer to, I think, get more space to do more stuff up here, to have maybe a couple of figures in there at the same time, but most of the depth of this portion of the build here is dedicated to just the sliding section for the raising, again, kind of portcullis, and you can see that in the background, but that itself really doesn't need all that space. It's such a simple mechanism, it just rides on a little track. It just slides up and down. To get the best look at the final section back here, I'm going to temporarily remove the T-Rex. We'll take a closer look at that in a minute. But this has a lab down below. You could consider it to be a lab, or you could consider it to be an armory. And they've got a stand here for a couple of helmets and a couple of weapons, the tranquilizer dart rifles, I guess. And they've got a helicopter landing pad up here, a helipad, which holds on to this interesting unique light helicopter. I'll show you that up more closely, but it has the H pattern up on the top. And if we turn this around and look at it from the back, this little section can actually be removed, so that gives you easier access to it. It's just on some jumpers, and this is where you'd refill your tranquilizer dart weapons, your handheld ones. So I've got a big tank of tranquilizer material there, and then this is a dispenser, so you put a couple of syringes in there and you pull this out and they would get filled up, and then you take them and put them into your weapons and fire them off. Of course, the guns themselves are not able to actually shoot. You just place it in there and then use your imagination to do the rest. Before we move on to looking at the side builds, the dinosaurs, and the figures up close, I want to talk about just a couple of other things. First of all, I'm just going to open up this section back here, and I'll just take this little module off entirely. A lot of this build, there you can see it's already starting to come apart accidentally. A lot of this build is rather fragile indeed, to the point of being annoying, where things just want to come apart very quickly if you just try to use what they've given you. These modules are intended to be separated out and put together in different ways if you want, but just the way that they structured things was nowhere near as strong, even though this was just 6 short years ago, a little longer than that. As of the time of the recording of this video, LEGO did not have their strength standards up to where they are today, and that resulted in less expensive sets in some cases, not all cases, in some cases, but definitely a lot less durability. This part is actually pretty good, but some of the other parts are just flimsy. The whole thing has a very flimsy kind of feel to it. But one other thing that I wanted to show you here, I'll just take off one more section. This almost came apart just now. Look across to the opposite corner, and you can see that the structure there is completely empty. So there's nothing inside that corner, and back over here, same thing again. So there's nothing inside, no additional detail, not even any basic pieces. So you just, if you want to use that space, again, you need to add your own stuff. Oh, and here's another section of this that is very flimsy. Even just moving around a little bit, these parts tend to come apart always. Here's the helicopter, an open cockpit design with a couple of control sticks for the single pilot. It's got a light on the front that can be turned up and down. You can see these as tranquilizer missiles. They're not actual flick fires, but you can just pull one off and then just send it on off to its target. This rotates around as long as the guy is not using his walkie-talkie, and then you've got the spinning tail rotor, and that's about that. You can change the angles of these side pylons if you like. Either of these looks a little bit better and just keep them horizontal. No console or anything to see, but this is basic, but it's a little bit different. Not the normal helicopter design. kind of sleek. I could imagine this being amphibious too, being able to do a water landing. Just kind of looks like it has a hull for the lower part of the fuselage. Not bad. And then there's also this little 4x4, and it has its own unique build. It doesn't use any specialized chassis piece or anything, so you really have to put this together. It's kind of basic, kind of blocky, but I kind of like it. Has a little bit of a Jeep feel, a little bit of a open top SUV style thing, sort of feel like a Bronco or something with the top chopped off. I don't know, but it has a large tank of tranquilizer material over here and a single flick-fire missile. You can rotate this around, kind of use it as a turret if you want. And on the back there are a couple of clips to hold on to minifig accessories. This is a box that you can take along with you in the field. You can put weapons in there also. Also comes with just a couple of tools, hammer and the wrench and pry bar unit. This is basically like a pickup that actually looks decent from the back. Holds one single person, and they have just a steering wheel in there, and that's just that. It's alright. Yeah, it's not bad as a toy. And that brings us to the dinosaurs, featuring the exclusive color variation and print for the T-Rex with the olive green base color and also some regular brown and a lot of printing in dark brown. And this is the same mold that they've used a number of times, but this is the only place, or the only set that has had this color arrangement, and has the same articulation as others that they've done, which I think is actually quite good. Be able to close up the mouth. You can kind of leave it halfway in between there. It's supposed to snap fully open or fully closed, but there's a little room there. The tiny little, almost useless arms at the front have bar-shaped attachment points on them, so you could hold on to some handles. You could actually give him a walkie-talkie. You can make him grab one of the tranquilizer weapons from one of the figures, do something like that, or you could even have a figure still holding on to that if you want to have him, trying to be a little bit heroic there. Yeah, so I think these dinosaurs look pretty good, work pretty well, and it was nice to have a special color. It makes it extra collectible, I guess. Same with this. This was an exclusive color scheme for the Raptor, the Hollywood Jurassic Park Velociraptor, but in this set they just call it a Raptor, so you could call it a Utah Raptor if you want, or some sort of hybrid if you want, whatever you want to call it. You could call it a Velociraptor if you want, but they just tried to be a little bit less specific about it, probably recognizing just how Hollywood this design was in the Jurassic Park movies. But there is a figure for the sake of scale. Unique color scheme for this one, with the base color being medium nougat, or medium dark flesh, I think they call that. And then the alternate color is dark orange. The head is able to rotate around. Again, you get the clicky jaw, opens up all the way, closes all the way. I like that look. Or you can kind of get it to hold in between. Not supposed to, but it does work. And the legs go up and down, and the arms go up and down. And the arms are able to also hold on to something bar-sized or shaped with this one. I like that color scheme. I especially like looking at the feet of this one. For some reason, there's something interesting, kind of nice and different. I think about the lack of contrast between the tan claws or nails and the medium nougat base color. Last up, here's the Coelophysis, and if I didn't pronounce that wrong, I blame all of the paleontologists that have said that's the correct way to pronounce it, but however you pronounce it, it's a small prehistoric animal, and Lego did it as a single piece, a single rubbery piece because of how thin it is, to give it a little bit of durability so the limbs wouldn't break off. As a result, it has no articulation. You can bend things around a little bit, but it doesn't really do much of anything. But you just pose it around. It has anti-stud accommodation on the bases of the feet. You can also place something bar-sized or shaped into the mouth. It'll hold on to something, and you have a single open stud on the top as well. And for the sake of scale, once again, just a little bit taller in this kind of pose than a figure. I think it looks pretty good, and it's another exclusive color scheme with the olive and the dark red, available only in this set. Here's a closer look at a couple of the figures, with obviously the figure on the right representing the pilot of the helicopter. And these officially, according to the set description, did not have names, so you're just giving them their own names, although I didn't look too far into the lore to see if there were any comics or anything that assigned some names to these. The tranquilizer guns in this series were the long ones, the long-barreled ones, and those were in the gunmetal gray color. And these were the same helmets between the two, and that's a good alternate face. That is no alternate face, but yeah, really expressive there for, showing fright. A good one to use for custom figures as well. And yeah, those worked out pretty well. And there are the other two up close. This was a used set, and the face on the left is a little bit play-worn. You see a little bit of a scratch in there. Almost looked like a crack, but it's actually just a scratch. And she actually has a little bit of freckling on the cheeks. It's supposed to be a little bit more obvious than that, but I think a little bit of it has worn down. They do include in the set a couple of tranquilizer syringes, as you already saw, or they could represent darts, so you could apply those to these two extra weapons. And for alternate faces here, well, that hairpiece did not want to come off, but nothing there. Another good one here, though, and this one has the freckles just a little bit less worn. I think this was may never have been taken off, that hairpiece, after it was first built. But yeah, another very useful alternate face with, just a strong expression. Good dinosaurs in this one, good figures, I think. A good land vehicle build. The helicopter is fine. The enclosure being complete as it is good, and having the entrance and exits that can be opened and closed in the front and back is useful. It's funny when you think about it, though, that this was a complete enclosure. Nowadays, that would be considered a total luxury. Nowadays, almost everything is just a fascia in modern sets. They're stronger, but they don't feel as complete. So that's it for my look at this set. If you have any comments about it, feel free to let your thoughts be heard down below, and I will talk to you again as soon as I can, because my next video is on the way.